Last time on Cyberphile, we took down the disemboweled husk and moved on to the Mire of Stench, where we found a strange merchant and plenty of decomposing enemies. Hello Saltborn, welcome back to another episode of From the Depths, my 100% walkthrough, lore-enhanced walkthrough, mind you, of Salt and Sanctuary. So let's face the next boss. That stench most foul. Now this is the god, or rather, not even a god, but this is the creature that the leprous revered as a god. And as you can see, it's pushing out stench pods there. And stench pods are actually their own sentient beings. But they're essentially just like discarded hair or fingernails of the stench most foul. So, as I stated last episode, an ambitious woods wraith ended up creating that stench most foul on accident, and eventually that stench most foul began to hunger for human flesh and ate its creator. And yet the leprous decided that's what we're going to revere as our god. Now, I kind of get it. The leprous are inflicted with grey rot, and in fact maybe the stench most foul wouldn't eat them because of their plague. And so they decided to follow that stench most foul, perhaps because it's disturbing and disgusting, just like the leprous are with their grey rot infliction, which remember is like a zombification. So this fight is honestly not too terribly difficult. It's mostly just managing your poison, and that vile vines ring that we grabbed early in the area has certainly helped us out. No problem. So this episode and the next episode, there are some episodes that don't have a ton of lore. These next couple episodes are probably going to have a ton of lore, because before I do every episode, I reread those sections in my Drowned Tome and see what's important that I don't want to accidentally forget, and I write it down on my clipboard. Usually an episode equates to about a half a page, maybe a full page of notes. This episode ended up covering like 2 pages, like 2 full pages of notes. So what's to come in the next few episodes are going to be very lore, speculation heavy. I hope you enjoy. This is what you've come for, right? So up here we're going to meet with a new NPC who will give us a new brand. And she's a very interesting character, or rather her backstory's pretty interesting. So let's have a chat. Hey stranger. You're like me, aren't you? You hunt monsters for their salt too, don't you? Sure do. That's what I thought. My hunt led me to this mire. Through that cave is a blocked passage. I recognize the barrier though. It's called Redshift. There is a brand that allows its owner to cut through Redshift with torchlight. It is a secret guarded closely by us Bloodbrows, but these are extenuating circumstances. Would you like the brand? Of course I would. Very good. Your hand then. So here we're given the Redshift brand, which will allow us to bypass Redshift barriers. Let's see what else she has to say first. See with the eyes of a hunter. My people created redshift barriers centuries ago to contain beasts. We were hunters of nightmares, beastly thralls, possessed animals, demonic spirits. We sometimes captured our quarry, to be held in prisons of redshift. This island is full of redshift barriers, but I didn't place them. I don't know how to build redshift. I don't think anyone does anymore. That secret died generations ago. This island draws people from so many places and times. A fellow Bloodbrow must have been here from centuries ago. Hunt fiercely, friend. So she gives us a huge bunch of backstory about the Bloodbrows, which are also known as Redbrows, by the way. And what they were are ancient beast hunters. You see, long before the events of Salt and Sanctuary, there were beasts that roamed the world, not unlike Bloodborne. The world had a need for hunters of said beasts. So, the Bloodbrows filled that need. Now, the Bloodbrows were initially offshoots of the Keepers of Fire and Sky, the magician collective that live in Citadel, which I'll talk more about once we finally meet with that creed. Now, they were offshoots because they didn't like the They didn't like the strict rules that were governing magic that the Keepers of Fire and Sky had. So I need to apologize if my audio and video don't line up correctly, because for whatever reason, my Elgato HD capture that I've been using since I got it in March decided to glitch out for this recording. So I had to back up an old save, re-defeat the disemboweled husk, re-clear the Mire of Stench, and re-record everything you see in this episode. So I'm going to try and edit it so everything works out, but if it's not perfect, that's why. So please, just bear with me. Thanks. Whew, finally. Those guys are tough. Those are the Dread Horsemen who would watch the streets of Tannibur in an effort to make sure that no one tried to run away from being enslaved by Markdor. So back to lore, now that I can concentrate that I'm not in the middle of a really difficult fight. The Bloodbrows actually created, since they were magically attuned, obviously, once being followers of the Keepers of Fire and Sky, they founded what is now known as alchemy. So without them, we wouldn't have alchemy as we have it today. In the world of Salt and Sanctuary, of course. So again, thanks to their arcane attunement, they also created Redshift, that strange ability that we can now bypass thanks to the brand that Lady Bloodbrow gave to us. Redshift was originally used to capture monsters, as she said. Nothing could break through Redshift except others who could deal with Redshift. Now, the method for creating Redshift has been long lost, meaning that if there's Redshift barriers on this island, it means there must be a Bloodbrow from long, long ago, somewhere on this island. And we will in fact meet with that Bloodbrow and talk about him in depth. Eventually, the Bloodbrows were disbanded, however, thanks to the fact that they were led on those Tristini witch hunts that occurred. And so they fell in stature and were disbanded and left knowing that they were not hunting witches at all, just normal women and children of Tristine. So thanks to the Bloodbrows, however, the monster scourge, the epidemic, whatever you want to call it, was in fact quelled, so they were successful in their attempts. The next thing I want to talk about is the Iron Ones, because right now we're in a sanctuary of the Iron Ones. And the Iron Ones hail from the northern mountains of Markdor. After seeing what the Great Unification Decree became, that Ascaria tried to get everyone to renown the Three as their official creed, they saw all the hate and the fighting and all that occurred, and decided that instead the will of man was greater than any god, and as such deserved to be worshipped as such. And so they created their own faith, all extolling the will of man. They had their own clerics, their own songs, their own beliefs, everything. Now, the fact that one must call out to powers other than man in order to cast magic, thus we're talking about the Weave of Fire and Sky, which I'll talk about later, many Iron Ones hate magic. However, some argue that it is only through man that we can call upon these powers, so I guess it could go either way. Let's see what this blacksmith of the Iron Ones has to say. I don't remember getting to this island. What I do know is smithing, and that's what I'll do. I'm a Dorian, born and raised in Markdor, that is. Never set foot outside the city, yet here I am. The last thing I remember? An alehouse, a couple rounds, some song, some cheer. Must have been kidnapped, must have been out a long time. But see, I've thought about it. Whatever it was the kidnappers wanted me for, they're not getting it now. Can't sell me to slavers, can't ransom me for coin, not if I'm shipwrecked on this island. If they wanted me dead, they'd have done it outright, so they didn't throw me overboard. Nope, must have been a shipwreck. And no one's come after me, so they must have died in the wreck. So I must conclude, men died trying to best me, and yet, here I stand. I sure survived something else all right. Now let me do what I do. Now his dialogue, you can tell, he is very loyal to the will of man. As he said, you know, men came out to find me, but my will was stronger, essentially. So in Markdor, healers and bakers are one and the same, and they took that Cadanian Rogiella, the red grass, and baked it into their rolls. So that's why you get hearty rolls when you rest at a sanctuary of the Iron Ones. And though they're the slowest to regen of the three starting creeds, the bun actually heals for a longer duration, so take what you will of that. So these guys are actually Night Raiders. They are they were anyway, one of the powerful Ascarian regiments, now of course rotted and drowned, but at one point they were the proud Ascarian regiment known as the Night Raiders, the same Night Raiders that the Penson pilgrimage encountered and had to fight off. Over here we can meet with the boatman. Safe passage round the bay. Do we venture east, friend? Round we go. And then we're actually going to double back and hit an area that we skipped because I thought it would make the most sense for me to cover certain areas before I covered other areas so that I could explain certain pieces of lore at certain times. But first, we have our Despondent Thief, the last time we'll see her this game. Lots of wrecked ships here. Pretty sure I'll be able to scrap something together here. Thanks for keeping me company, friend. I'd take you with me if I could promise a safe journey, but I can't, so I won't. Besides, you've got a lady to find, be it a princess or a slave. For your trouble, here's a share of the spoils I've found. If you find your way off this island, come to Coast Rock, find the Red Falcon, and ask for Edward. My name's not Edward, but that's how you'll find me. So that's it. That's all we'll see of the Despondent Thief. What becomes of her, we'll talk about a little later. But for now, let's claim this sanctuary, and I'll see you in the very next episode of From the Depths with Cyberphile. Don't miss it! Hey, thanks for watching! Don't forget to subscribe for more Cyberphile content, and if you liked this video, show me with that little thumbs up button. If you liked this video, you might like one of my other videos. You can click right on the boxes to jump to them. Cyberphile, offline.